Good morning. Adrian here from Jaskier and Astrology, and I'm going to talk today about the new moon in Aries that is taking place on the 17th at 7:51 a.m. in on the East Coast of the United States. So you just need to adjust for wherever you are in the world. Today I'm recording this on the 15th. And Yeah, this is an incredible moon. Um, I've heard other astrologers that use a lot more planets and asteroids talk about 10 different planets. I'm looking at seven of the really most close in planets that I work with. And seven is a lot of planets. I've heard some astrologers that have been around for quite a while, as many as 50 years doing this kind of work. And they also say that they've never seen so many planets in Aries at one time. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chart because this is something incredible to see. And let's see. Here we go. All right. Look at this. We have Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Chiron, and the new moon. The new moon is at 27 degrees of Aries. So, if you've been following me for a while, I've been talking about how these new moons, I believe since December of last year, maybe even before that, have been at 29 degrees. And then they started slowly moving down 28. This one here is at 27, the first one at 27 degrees. So they're moving down. Um, but nonetheless, look at this conglomeration of planets. So we're going to go ahead and discuss what's happening. I'm going to go ahead as an evolutionary astrologer and start with Pluto because Pluto is the bottom line of what is happening for each of us on the individual level. And as each of us works through this, it changes the collective as well because we're all part of the collective. Pluto in Aquarius is really having us break free from the attachments that we've all had to the societal structure that we've been living through for really some time. Um, this societal structure has become confining for most humans at this time, and we are in the process of breaking out of it. And Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus. And we're going to come over here and look at Uranus at 29 degrees. I mean, this is the end of the Taurian energy. Uranus has been in Taurus for 7 years and it is on its way out. In fact, I believe it's on the 24th or the 25th that Uranus moves into Gemini, where it will stay for another 7 years. I think it's very interesting that Venus, the planet that rules Taurus, is in a closing conjunction. So let's talk about Taurus. Taurus is about, at its basic level, survival. It's about how we survive. It's about our bodies. It's about our senses. The five, six senses that we have. It rules how we survive on this planet. And then the survival relates to what we value and what we need. What we need to survive, for example, all humans, if we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all humans need to eat food and drink water. So that is a basic need for all humans. In fact, all animals, all life on Earth requires these things, very basic. Um, and Values and needs. particularly when we're talking about Taurus, we're talking about ourselves. Venus rules both Taurus and Libra, so it's how we relate to ourselves, how we attune to what our own needs are in Taurus, and how we attune to the needs of the external or the other in Libra. So, how we are tuning to how we get our needs met is coming to an end. And Uranus has been breaking apart our value structure, the value structure of the collective for 7 years. And we've come to the point of intensity right now. And for all of us that are following the news and see what's happening, we can feel the intensity. So this is a closing conjunction. It's coming to an end. It's going to start a new cycle in Gemini. And Gemini is about the perspectives that we choose to follow, that underline like what we pay attention to, what we see, um, how we see the reality. We can see the reality in many, many different ways. There are over 8 billion people on the planet. There are 8 billion perspectives. And so we're stepping into a new perspective, and Venus will move on past Uranus, and we'll begin the cycle of attuning to a new perspective with respect to um, how the collective is going to see the perspective. It's going to change. So I want to start there. The next thing, I know I'm not starting with this huge stellium, but I feel like one thing that's really important is this Uranus thing because it's an outer planet. It's what we are all um, living through right now, and it's an interesting energy that we're looking at. So, before I go on any further, I really want to go to the nodes because the nodes are the emotional development. It's how we emotionally align with what's happening in our world, within ourselves and within the world around us. And we've been going through this nodal journey through Virgo and Pisces for some time now. It comes to an end on the 26th of July when the nodes move into Leo and Aquarius, which is an interesting thing by itself. We'll see if we have a little time later to talk about that. Um, South Node. South Node's in Virgo. So Virgo is this energy of self-improvement. It's the work that we do to improve ourselves, our lives, to make life easier for us, to be able to succeed. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so it's an air sign. It takes the this thought energy, and really turns it into earth. It's thought into matter. And so Virgos is this the way that it plays out because the nodes are our identities. South node representing the past identity, how we've seen ourselves literally up until now. And then the North node is the future identity. And the play between these two is the moon, which is the current identity that we're seeing ourselves. But like I said, I'm going to step into the stellium in Aries next after I discuss the Uranus. So these nodes, when the world that we've been living in and the paradigm we've been living through is through seeing ourselves, South Node, um, as separated from the whole. Pisces being the whole, the oneness, unity, and Virgo being separation. And it's not difficult to see. We have, we see each other, we perceive each other as separate. We perceive the earth and the rocks and the trees, the animals as separate from us. We perceive the states here in the United States as each separate state, each separate city. We have each separate country. You can see how we have the separate religions. We have everything is separated. And it's not that it's a bad thing because this energy of separation that we've lived through has really allowed us to look at the fine details. Another Virgo word is to look at the separations that make up the whole. And so it's this interplay between the separations and the whole that we're working through on an emotional level right now. And what Uranus is doing right now, I'm just going to click on Uranus so that you can see that there is a square to the nodes. As Uranus is ending, we are being forced to make a change, a choice. Squares are about tension. It's a tension to make a change. Two kinds of squares. We've got a crisis in action square, a crisis in consciousness square. So between um, the Uranus and the South Node, it's a crisis in consciousness square. The South Node moves toward Uranus because it moves backward. Uranus is moving toward. So this is like the third quarter square. This is a crisis in consciousness. This is where the beliefs, the truth of the status quo differ from our personal realities, our personal truths. And so it's a choice of to follow our own belief structure or to stay with the beliefs of the status quo. And because we've been looking at life through this energy of separation and it's caused so much destruction, this is this 29-degree square that we're seeing. It's intense. Um, I've heard people talk about this. I mean, it could really end life on the planet. Um, unless we make a choice to make changes. And the change that we're looking at here is this first quarter square. We have to start to crisis in action. We have to change the way that we attune to each other, to life. And like I said, Venus, which rules Taurus, also rules Libra. What we do with ourselves really affects the external world and other people. And what this North Node is saying is we need to see ourselves as part of a whole. We need to understand that, yes, there are other people, the separation, but that we are all working together to share this planet. And and that everybody that's here has the right to life. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. And so this square is really important as to what's going on with this new moon. So let's start there. Um, look at all of these planets. So we've got two very new ingresses into Aries, and that would be Mars and Mercury. While Chiron has been in Aries for quite some time and really is on its way out. Neptune, I believe since February 20th, somewhere around the 20th of February, has been, in fact, Neptune and Saturn conjuncted on the 20th of February at the 0 degree point of Aries, which really signaled a very new cycle starting between Neptune, which is a spiritual planet. It also is the planet that dissolves anything that is no longer uh, in alignment with what Pluto wants us to do, which is the bottom line, and it allows us to begin this new spiritual energy on in a new way. We're it's source energy is coming down and reorganizing itself, while Saturn is crystallizing this new reorganization. Saturn makes things real. So Mercury. Mercury has is the most recent planet to have crossed Neptune. So I look at Neptune as like a car wash. Anything that crosses Neptune or even the Pisces 12th house or the um, Pisces archetype, anything that goes through really gets scrubbed clean. We raise ourselves above. We can see what the energy was about because it is the end of the cycle. It is the end of a cycle of growth, of learning, of whatever it is. In the case of Mercury, it's a thought process. It's how we think and how we communicate those thoughts outside of us and inside of us because Mercury is dual natured. So as Mercury crossed through Neptune, it dissolved an old thought pattern, and it is now, it's only 1 degree past on this new moon. It's the very beginning of a new thought process that is developing. I don't even think, when I think of new moons, they're black, but you don't actually see what's going to be happening until you can see that crescent. And I don't think we can see that crescent yet with Mercury. So we don't really know what the thought processes that are changing yet because it's very, very new. However, it is closing to Mars. So these new thought processes are going to end the way we're acting. Where this thought process come to an end, and it's going to change the way that we act out Pluto, because Mars is the planet I call Mars boots on the ground. Pluto's the soul, and we action our soul journey through Mars. And so Mars is in its own sign. Mars in its own sign, this is the energy to do something, whatever it is. And each of us is going to have a different desire. We're all different people, and we all came in to do something specific. Nobody came in to do exactly the same thing. Nobody has the exact same past. We live in different countries. We um, have different past lives, and everything is different between the individuals. So I can't say necessarily what this new energy is, but it is new. And it is conjunct in a closing conjunction to Saturn. Now, remember, I said Saturn is crystallizing this new reality. Mars also has passed through Neptune and dissolved their old actions. It's now closing to Saturn. So this new, I call the Mars and Neptune conjunction that happened last week the like the spiritual warrior. Here we're all coming in, boots on the ground, to really change what the world is looking like. We have the desire to make a change. We may not know how to do it, and more will be revealed to each of us on a personal level, but it will come from within. And as Mars closes, as these actions begin, we're really closing and crystallizing a new reality. Going on to the next one, we have Chiron that has been in Aries for at least 4 years, and it is moving out. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is in mythology um, part horse and part human. Um, and Chiron was rejected by his parents, and then he was later on poisoned, and he was immortal. Therefore, the poison left him in a lot of pain through his life. and he worked to find a way to heal himself. He did all kinds of things to try to heal himself. And in that process, he gained so much knowledge and he shared this knowledge with other people. He was never able to heal his own wound. And that's a really important thing. We don't actually heal the wound, but we learn to work with it. And so Chiron in Aries is really healing this wound of being afraid to stand up for our individual selves. For millennia, we've been forced to live in these cultures, these societies, and these societies have a very strict kinds of rules. And if we come in with the internal desire to do something different, now remember, all these desires are coming in from source energy. And so if these things get submerged, perhaps we've been killed in past lifetimes, or we get humiliated, or put into jail, or whatever the things are, it has prevented each of us on a very deep level from standing up for our true selves, from showing up as we are. We out of fear. We don't want to be hurt this time around. And that causes this energy of suppression. And suppression causes all kinds of damage. um, and so this Chiron, you see, is also square to Pluto, and it is in a first quarter square. So we really are having to make a choice to change the way we behave, to really, in order to allow the breaking free from the external control, we have to be willing to put ourselves out there, to really just show up. And that is the energy between Chiron and Pluto right now. We also notice that Chiron is conjunct this new moon, really by just a few minutes off. And this is important because as we step into our true selves, which is as scary as it seems, it's something that we really have to do if we want things to change. And things are changing. This new moon says, yes, we're being driven to show up for ourselves. That's what this whole stellium is. Aries is about birth. It's like this is the rebirth of ourselves. We're having a rebirth. And from whoever we were before the 17th in 2 days, be whoever we've been, that's ending. We're stepping into this new energy of self. And it's a little bit scary. Um, we don't know what's going to happen. When it comes to Aries, we don't know what's going to happen. We just have these really intense desires to do something new. That's what the stellium is. This is the stepping into um, the starting gates. Here we go. Um, what else did I want to say about this chart? I talked about the two squares, the two T squares, the square to the nodes with Uranus and soon to be Venus, and also the square to the nodes with Chiron. So healing of the wound allows us to start this new cycle. So the healing of the wound, we will always be a little bit fearful. Aries has this energy of being a little bit anxious. There's a little bit of anxiety that happens stepping out on your own. When you don't know what's going to happen, there's anxiety, there's fear that comes up. But it's almost like if we don't make the changes and do it anyway, we'll stay stuck. And this Aries intensity, all of these planets in Aries, is really not going to allow us to stay stuck. Um, we're at a pivot point. We can't live like we've been living anymore. This conjunction here. in Taurus. We have to make a choice and change, otherwise, survival will not be possible. And this conjunction here in Aries says everything has to come anew. We have to dissolve the way we've been conditioned to think, the way we've been conditioned to act, and really to step into what is coming from within us and moving outward. We've got one more square here. Jupiter. Jupiter is about the truth, the belief structures that we hold. And in Cancer, it is about our personal beliefs. Wherever Jupiter is, it expands the energy. And expanding this internal belief structure is really, um, it's important to this healing of the wound and to crystallize this new sense of self. Because if we don't believe in who we are and what's coming from within, then we really will have a hard time stepping into these roles of becoming our true selves. Um, and there's a lot of anxiety. This is the anxiety of separation happening here. Jupiter wants in Cancer wants to be comfort, wants to have comfort and security, and there is no security with Aries. We're just throwing ourselves out there. And so there might be a little bit of anxiety in following our own truth instead of following the truth of our culture. But these are the changes that each person has to make for themselves. And when we make those choices, even though they're frightening to do, I think that we will be surprised. It's there's this energy of trust. We have to like just trust in what is happening. Um, this other square, I believe, is Neptune. And so, yeah, you just got to trust uh in the reality, in what the possibilities are for us. And there's a lot when we're dealing with Mercury, I have this saying, seeing is believing and believing is seeing. You have to believe it to see it, and you have to see it to believe it. It works in both ways. And this is belief, and this is the seeing. Oops, it actually isn't there. It's Mars. No, it's Saturn that's making the square. Um, and so, yeah, we really have to follow our own truth to crystallize the new reality for ourselves. What else? One final thing that I want to talk about, and this is this finger of God. So this is like a faded energy. These two inconjuncts are pointing to this one planet. This one planet here this is the change. They are blind spots. We don't actually see why unless we change. It's like the blind spot in a car. You have to like actually turn around because you can't be seen through the mirrors. You really have to change your perspective to see. Both of these are this one is a Virgo type, this one is a Scorpio type. We are having to really with sorry, I'm not explaining this well. Seeing ourselves and the reality through the eyes of separation is um, in conflict with this Aquarian energy that Pluto is bringing us to. Pluto wants us to break free from the old paradigm. The old paradigm is seeing ourselves as separate. And so a lot of conflict, crises are popping up. We have a big crisis in the world, and it's because we're not seeing ourselves in through the energy, the perspective of we actually are all one, we're all of humanity, And we aren't being kind to humanity right now. We're not being kind to the earth, and it is linked to this south node. And so the way to heal this is the sextile. Sextiles actually are mutually supportive energy. It's really to dissolve the past and really spiritualize who we are. Come into spirit source energy, which is oneness. These two planets are saying the same thing. Um, and yeah, this is how I'm seeing this um, new energy is we really have to leave the past behind now. And that's going to be very difficult. Our our world, when we continue to follow, you know, my grandfather used to tell me when the blind follow the blind, both end up in the ditch. And the ditch is this Uranus and Taurus right here. We have to stop following the old way and step into the new way. And we're going to have to do it on the individual level because the external world does not change through the external, it actually changes through the internal. Each one of us has to take responsibility for ourselves and make the change within ourselves. And as each of us does that, the external changes automatically. So, yeah, that's the energy that I see. Um, hopefully, hopefully this was helpful for you to understand what's happening. This is going to be intense on the emotional level for all of us. Uranus in Venus. This is it's like a life or death kind of energy. We have to make the change. Um, so yeah, for a more detailed description of what's going on, please follow me on Substack, subscribe, and you'll get a very detailed. I provide a um, narrative on how I see the whole picture, like I've delivered here, and I also describe each planetary alignment with all of the aspects individually so that you can see how I came to my overall idea of what's going on. And I will link my Substack below. Also, if you're interested in having me look at your chart and seeing how this is all affecting you personally, please reach out to me at my website, jaskiranastrology.com, and we can work out a time where we can get together and take a look at your chart. So thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Happy new moon in Aries. This is the beginning, an intense year that we're following. It's moving very quickly, and a lot of changes are taking place, and this is the beginning of those changes. So stay well, you all, and peace. Thanks for listening.